Check out the links to my Twitter and Instagram profiles on this intro stream. And one last quick thing, you can check out my latest video by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And now it is time to start today's featured episode. Hi again, everybody. Welcome into this latest Tamir Moore YouTube episode. I'm your host, Tamir Moore. So great to have you with us. We are currently in the midst of March Madness. We had an exciting first weekend of games. We have the second weekend of NCAA March Madness games coming up with the Sweet 16 and, of course, the Elite 8. And in this video specifically, we'll be talking about three primary things. We'll start off with the ACC tournament that took place in Charlotte. Then we'll talk about the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. And we will end with the brackets. Hopefully your bracket is still going, because mine certainly is not. Mine was busted the very first game of the tournament between Duke and Ohio State last week, but we'll have more about that in a moment. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And if you missed our last college basketball video, which was the March 2nd game between Iowa State and Arizona, then please click the card in the upper right corner or the description below. And I'm so excited for this video. We're going to have a lot of content, so let's not waste any more of your time, and let's get into it. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified of all of our newest content. We post regularly on YouTube throughout the course of the year. So if you like sports and would like to hear me give you my thoughts and analysis on it, then this is definitely the place for you to be. Thanks so much for your support as we continue to get closer to our goal of 100 subscribers, and I greatly appreciate you watching this video in particular. We will dive into the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City in just a moment, but let's start with the ACC tournament in Charlotte, North Carolina. That is the first of 3 sections on this YouTube episode. This year, the 2026 T. Rowe Price ACC Men's Basketball Tournament was held at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, the home of the NBA Charlotte Hornets from March 10th through March 14th. 15 teams participated, and there was only one winner, and we will share who won the ACC Men's Basketball Tournament in just a little bit. But I was able to watch one second-round game in particular on Wednesday, March 11th. We had the 13 seed versus the number 5 seed, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, taking on the Clemson Tigers, the number 5 seed in this year's tournament. This season, Clemson went 24-10, 12-6 in ACC play. As per Wake Forest, they went 17-16 this season, and it went 7-11 in ACC play. For those of you who do not know how the ACC tournament works, 15 teams qualify each year. The top 4 seeds, in this year being Duke, UNC, Miami, and Virginia, get double byes into the quarterfinals. If you're seed 5 through 8, like Clemson, number 5, Louisville, the number 6 seed, NC State, the number 7 seed, and number 8, Florida State, you get a single bye into the second round. And California as well. Cal, number 9 seed, also got a single bye, also 5 through 9. And then you're 10 through 15, like Pittsburgh and Stanford and SMU and Syracuse and Virginia Tech and Wake Forest. You have to play the first day and potentially have to play 5 consecutive days if you're able to get to the ACC championship game on Saturday night. And in this Clemson-Wake Forest game, we saw Clemson defeat Wake Forest 71-62 to advance to the quarterfinal round of the ACC tournament, where Clemson would eventually face North Carolina and win that ball game. And this is something that Clemson fans like. In this Wake Forest game, they only turned the ball over on 4 occasions, the second fewest turnovers in the ACC tournament game, to turning it over 3 times against North Carolina back in 95, 31 years ago. Clemson forward R.J. Gottfried recorded nearly a double-double as he scored 11 points and 8 rebounds in this game. Also a strength for Clemson in the victory was their bench play. They outscored Wake Forest 34-24 as bench points, 9 points for Chase Thompson. Dallas Thomas added 6 points on 2 threes, while Ace Buckner scored 8 and added 5 rebounds and 3 assists. And another stat to mention is Butter Johnson, a native of Huntsville, Alabama, formerly of UAB, transferred into Clemson. During the Wake Forest game, he clipped the 1,000 point mark of his career with 8 points. He also added 3 rebounds and 8 assists. So Butter, congratulations, brother, on hitting the 1K mark. Clemson used a 23-9 run in the first half to lead by 18 at halftime, its largest lead of the first half against a ACC conference foe. They led 41-23 when we had the intermission. Clemson shot 50% from the field from 3 to lead Wake Forest for a solid portion of the first half. Clemson really was active on the board, grabbing 40 rebounds, 17 offensive, 23 defensive. Wake Forest felt constant key throughout the course of the basketball game. Wake Forest turned the ball over 12 times, and Clemson was able to force 7 steals and 5 blocks against Wake Forest. They outscored Wake Forest. Clemson did 20-4 points off of turnovers. So the Clemson Tigers played a really good basketball game, and we saw Clemson take care of business in their second round matchup. I saw Clemson late in the season at North Carolina back on March 3rd, a game that Clemson lost, but Clemson was able to win this one and able to advance the next round to get a rematch against UNC, in which Clemson ultimately won. And that was the only game that I was able to watch from the ACC tournament. Later in the week, the ACC tournament eventually came to an end. We saw Duke defeat Virginia, the number 1 seed, defeated the number 2 seed by a final score of 74-70. Duke was able to win the ACC tournament for the second straight season, and for the third time in the last 4 years, Duke was able to win the ACC championship for the 24th time. Cameron Boozer earned the Everett Case Award as the tournament MVP. Congratulations. And how about this for John Shire, the Duke Blue Jabber? Not only did they win the tournament this year, but they won the regular season ACC title as well, their 22nd, and went back-to-back for the first time since claiming 5 straight regular season titles from 1997 through 2001. And we got some notes from the ACC side for the men's tournament, which we'll get to later. And of course, what a year that Duke had, right? The Duke Blue Devils going into March Madness, winning 13 straight games, 34-2 when you combine the regular season and the conference tournament. And I'm telling you, the Duke Blue Devils, they look like a team that could potentially go on a national championship run. And the ACC tournament was cool. So much fun watching it for the first time. Hopefully I can watch the tournament again next year. And of course, Cameron Boozer. One quick note on this before we move on to the Big 12 tournament, which will be a big chunk of this video. Cameron Boozer, Sporting News National Player of the Year, on watch lists pretty much for everything. Preseason All-American, second team Cameron Boozer was, according to CBS Sports. Preseason All-American, first team according to Sports Illustrated. Player of the Year, watch list, Cameron Boozer, Naismith Trophy, the John Wooden Award, the NABC Player of the Year. So Cameron Boozer is one of the best players I've seen in college basketball. This guy has a bright future ahead of him. And that is the story for one of the best players in college basketball. Cam Boozer coming in as a freshman and taking the college basketball world by storm And he was one of the big reasons why Duke was able to win the ACC tournament for the second consecutive year. We got some notes on the ACC NCAA tournament, but we will keep you in the loop about that. We will tell you about that later. I'm going to hold you in suspense a little bit right there. I'm not going to spill the tea too much right now. But let us move on to the Big 12 men's basketball tournament, which was held the same week that the ACC men's basketball tournament was. T-Mobile Center in Kansas City was the site for another great Big 12 tournament. I watched it for the second year in a row. I started watching it last year, watched it again this year. I have always said the Big 12 Conference is the best league in men's D1 college basketball, and I still feel that way. And this year's competition certainly lived up to the billing, and teams fought hard. We saw some great competitive battles. We saw some iconic moments as well, and we saw a team destined to have a shot of winning the national championship, taking the whole thing, and we'll explain more about that in just a bit. All right, let us start with Wednesday night with a second round game between the number 10 seeded BYU Cougars and the number 7 seeded West Virginia Mountaineers. The winner will get number 2 Houston, and for the quarterfinal, the loser is out. Tournament is over. And BYU was able to get a dominant win over the Mountaineers by a final score of 68-48. BYU outscored West Virginia 31-23 in the first half. They outscored them 37-25 in the second half. BYU shot 45% from the field. They shot 33% from distance. They hit 60% of their free throws, grabbed 35 total rebounds. They did turn the ball over 13 times. Were able to get 9 steals. West Virginia was very sloppy with the ball. 22 turnovers in this game, 7 steals, 30 rebounds. They shot 61% from the line, 27.8% from free, which is obviously abysmal. And their field goal percentage was 38.10. BYU was able to advance to the Big 12 quarterfinals behind an outstanding performance Give me 1 second here. Yeah, BYU was able to get to the Big 12 quarterfinals against Houston behind an outstanding performance from Kennard Davis Jr., a junior from St. Louis, Missouri, who went for 20 points in this game, went 5 of 6 from free, which is really outstanding, and he went 7-11 for the field. BYU's second-year head coach Kevin Young had this to say about the West Virginia game after it was done. He said, quote, "Hard-fought game. West Virginia is a team that plays extremely hard," end quote. Young went on to say the following quote. He said, quote, "Well-coached team. Coach Haas," meaning the West Virginia coach, "has done a great job being a first-year coach in this league. This is a hard league. He has done a great job in his first year," end quote. So, yeah, I love how Kevin Young gives respect to the opposing team. And think about it. West Virginia was able to get a 7 seed in the Big 12 tournament. They were able to get a single bye into the second round. Pretty impressive. When you have a first-year coach is able to get his team a top 8 seed in the Big 12, one of the best conferences in the country, West Virginia was able to get a 7 seed, and then unfortunately this ran to a BYU buzzsaw. And when you have a player like AJ DeBansa, a guy that jumped off the chart, this is the guy who's a highly talked about freshman. We'll talk more about AJ in just a moment. West Virginia just was not going to beat this BYU team the way that they were playing in this game. And speaking of DeBansa, He scored 27 points while going 5 for 6. This is the West Virginia game Wednesday night. He had 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. His 20-point effort marked the 26th time this season that he reached that mark, the 4th most in the single season. And DeBanza made history in this tournament, and we'll explain more about that shortly. Robert Wright reached the 1,000-point mark in his career with 11 points. I mean, BYU is third player in double figures. And we just talked about another player, Butta Johnson for Clemson, getting to 1,000 points. Robert Wright for BYU was able to get to 1,000 points on Wednesday as well in the other tournament. And Dominique Diamande helped power stop in the first half for BYU, posting 3 steals in 8 first half minutes. In the second half, BYU shot 50%, which is good. It is a 49.9% overall, while holding West Virginia to 38.1%. West Virginia recorded 22 turnovers, which led to 17 Cougar points. All right, let's talk about the game more in depth. Let's start with the first half. Kennard Davis Jr. got BYU on the board first with a 3-point shot. West Virginia answered with a free of their own, and then West Virginia went a 5-0 spurt to put a 3-point lead into the first media timeout. And then we saw a Dominique Diamante windmill from all potential perspectives. This guy can throw it down with the best of them. I think we got some sound that we can play. I can't show it because of copyright reasons, obviously, but I think I can pull up the sound of this dunk that I really enjoyed watching. So we're going to pull up some sound right now, and hopefully y'all can hear it. This is from the ESPN2 broadcast of the Big 12 second round. John Shambi and Fran Pichilla have the call, and guys, take it away. Hopefully y'all can hear it. Let me know in the comments if you can't. All right, guys, thank you so much. So, yeah, if you heard what a play from Diamande, threw it down a windmill. This guy got some athletic abilities. He's very gifted. And you saw once that were to occur, then you saw a timeout called right away. And then we saw Robert Wright III make BYU's second free of this ball game, pushing the lead to 28-17. West Virginia tried to come back with a 6-0 run, and then DeBanza stopped it with a fast break dunk. The freshman, highly touted, was fouled and converted a 3-point play. BYU stopped West Virginia from scoring from the rest of the half to take a 31-23 lead into the break. And then once we got into the second half, Kennard Davis opened up the half with a free, and then both teams struggled, resulting in a 7-point BYU lead with 15:42 left in the ball game. And then BYU went to a little bit of a cold spell. West Virginia defense was able to lock down the windows and doors. BYU couldn't score for 2 minutes, and then Kennard Davis made another bucket, another drive on both sides. The Banta hit the Diamande for their second pair. Those two were so good together. The Mountaineers responded with a 3-point score of 43-48 with 10:40 on the clock. The Cougars eventually held West Virginia without a field goal for 6 minutes before a layup was finally converted, but it was too little too late. Heba Keita, outstanding defender, one of the best defenders I've seen in the Big 12 Conference, and BYU was able to pull away to win 68-48 to set up a semifinal matchup on Thursday against number 2 Houston. So, BYU off to a good start. 2 wins in the Big 12 tournament at this point. They beat Kansas State on Tuesday in the first round to set up the second round game with West Virginia. BYU was able to win that. So BYU is 2-0, 3 wins away from a Big 12 championship. All right, so that is Wednesday's slate. Let's move on to the Thursday doubleheader. we had a quarterfinal doubleheader on Thursday, March 12th, at the 2026 Phillips 66 Big 12 Men's Basketball Tournament continued again at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. We had a doubleheader of games on that day. We'll get to the Kansas TCU game in a moment, but let's start off with the game between BYU and Houston, number 10 seed versus number 2 seed. Of course, you're talking about the Houston Cougars, one of the best teams in the Big 12. This is the team that came just one win short of winning their first ever national championship last year, losing to Florida in the national championship game in San Antonio against the BYU team that's already won 2 games in the Big 12 tournament. A team that's playing their third game in as many nights. It was an interesting contrast. This Battle of the Cougs turned out to be, and of course, what was at stake? A trip to the Big 12 semifinals on Friday, and the loser will be eliminated from the remainder of the Big 12 tournament. And when it was all said and done, Kelvin Sampson's Houston Cougars started off their Big 12 tournament with a dub, defeating BYU by a final score of 73-66. We saw 4 players for Houston going double figures. Houston, a team I've seen a lot over the last couple of seasons. I've covered Houston quite a bit. I watched quite a few of their games. I respect how Kelvin Sampson runs his program. Of course, you have Emmanuel Sharp from Tampa, Miles Uzan from Las Vegas, Kingston Fleming, the freshman sensation from San Antonio, Texas. You have Christian Knack. You have Jozo Tugler. The Houston team has a roster full of respected talent from top to bottom. I love this Houston team, and the Houston Cougars are no stranger to the Big 12 tournament. This is their 3rd year in the Big 12, and Houston trying to go to the Big 12 championship game just like they did in 2025. And if Houston were to win, they're only 1 win away from another Big 12 tournament championship game appearance. As you might expect, this was a game of runs early on. BYU and Houston were trading blows with each other. And then at the 8:53 mark in the first half, Houston, who came in with a 27-5 record, but a 9-point lead, BYU was able to chip away before pushing ahead late in the first half with 2:14 remaining and stretched the lead to 7 after an 8-0 run powered by a pair of 3-point shots by Alisaf Kolchich. Graduate setter Khalifa Seiko grabbed a rebound and converted an and one with 0.3 of a second as Houston went to the locker room 41-37. Houston, of course, having a few days off prior to the start of the Big 12 tournament. Houston was a little rusty, as you might expect, against the BYU team that has played their 3rd game in 3 nights. You expect BYU to come out fierily, ready to go. And Houston, of course, battling through adversity. This is the team, the Houston Cougars, who battled through some adversity, right? Houston lost 3 straight games during the regular season. First time that Kelvin Sampson's Houston team lost 3 straight regular season games since 2017. And now, here we go. Houston backs are against the wall. How is this Houston team going to get up and respond? And it's Houston fashion. They do respond, and they responded pretty well. The game was tight in the second half, and then big shots. You want your big-time player to hit big shots and big moments, and Houston got major contributions late in the stretch of the semifinal game. Let's start with the redshirt freshman from Madison, Alabama. Chase McCarty hit a free to stretch Houston's lead to 6. Cole Sticks strength to 3-pointer for BYU, but a major triple from Kingston Fleming, the freshman guard from San Antonio, who's expected to be a top 5 pick in the upcoming NBA draft coming up in June in Brooklyn. And 4 free throws from senior guard Emmanuel Sharp, the OG, the respected leader of this ball club from Tampa, Florida, puts the lead to double figures and sealed BYU's loss in Houston's quarterfinal win. First straight year that Houston was able to advance in this tournament, and the 8th consecutive year in any conference. Remember, Houston was in the American Conference before coming to the Big 12 in 2023. Kingston Flemings, who has had a sensational freshman season for the Houston Cougars, he had 17 points in this game. Emmanuel Sharp, he finished with 13 points. Most of his damage came from the free throw line. 10 of his 13 points came at the line. Christian Knack, a freshman from New Orleans, he finished with 10 points and 7 rebounds, and JoJo Tugler tallied 12 points and 8 rebounds. AJ Dabansa led BYU with 26 points and added 5 rebounds. Dabansa, this guy can score in bunches. When I look at AJ Dabansa, he is a scorer that you definitely need to pay attention to and game plan for him. Well, BYU guard Robert Wright III finished with 15 points and 5 assists, so he's able to spread the sugar a little bit, finding his teammates in open spots. But at the end of the day, the Houston Cougars knock off BYU, and now Houston awaits the winner of the next game we're about to talk about, the Thursday quarterfinal game between Texas Christian University and the University of Kansas. On Thursday night, we saw our second game, Kansas and TCU. And of course, what's on the line in this game? The winner gets Houston, a team that just beat BYU in the earlier Thursday quarterfinal game. The winner of this game will get Houston in the Friday semifinal game. Loser is out, and then we'll have to sit and wait to find out their NCAA tournament fate. Kansas and TCU. All right, so let us talk about that game for a little bit. Okay, that is not what I'm looking for. Yep. And, of course, I'm looking on my screen at Darren Peterson, the freshman from Canton, Ohio, a guy that's been talked about in the news. Darren Peterson's in the news a lot. We all know, of course, the story about his availability. But when Darren Peterson is available for Bill Self and he's able to lace him up and play on the court, Darren Peterson is a heck of a young basketball player. He has been a blessing for the Kansas Jayhawks program. And Darren Peterson was able to pour in 24 points for Kansas as the number 3 seed was able to knock off the number 6 seed in the Big 12 quarterfinals by a final score of 78-73 to set up a semifinal matchup on Friday against number 2 seeded Houston. And Darren Peterson, another thing too that was encouraging for him, the freshman played 37 minutes. We all know, of course, Darren Peterson has not been available to play in some of the biggest moments, but in the Big 12 quarterfinal, Darren Peterson did play 37 minutes, which is good, which is nice to see his durability, was able to hold up for the same period of time like that. And Kansas was able to get a 5-point win, is able to beat Jamie Dixon in the TCU Horned Frogs. And that sets us up for a Kansas-Houston semifinal on Friday. But despite the 24 point that Darren Peterson scored, he was struggling to get going from the field, missing 12 of his 17 shots, included a breakaway, two-handed potential dunk opportunity with Kansas holding a 5-point lead with just over 4 minutes left in the basketball game. Just like Emmanuel Sharp, Darren Peterson was able to contribute from the line. He went 13 for 16, Peterson did, hitting a key shot late in the game. Flory Verduga added 13 and 10, so a double-double for him. Bryson Tiller and Marco Jackson had 26 combined 13 points for each guy. David Punch scored 24 points for TCU. Jaden Pierre added 11. And Kansas is very fortunate to have Darren Peterson available to them. With this Thursday win in the quarterfinal, Kansas is 13 and 7 when Darren Peterson is in the lineup, 10 and 2 when he's not. Verduga, though, was in foul trouble for most of the night, picked up 2 fouls in the first half, picked up his 4th foul with roughly 6.5 minutes left in the game. The game was tight late until Trey Light hit a free from the corner with 5:34 remaining. Jayhawks never trailed again, but neither team led by more than 6 until Bryson Tiller was able to rock the rim with a dunk to make the score 70-63 Kansas with 3:22 left in the game. So, Kansas, Houston, able to win their quarterfinal matchups to set up a semifinal matchup against each other. And that takes care of the Thursday doubleheader.
It's not just the first shot, it's the offensive rebound. Bradley. Remember.
Friday, March 13th, the Big 12 tournament continued with 2 semifinal games to determine which 2 teams will meet in the Big 12 championship on Saturday. Do y'all remember this from the Iowa State-Arizona game? Here's Dan Shulman and Jay Billis.
Shot, it's the offensive rebound. Bradley trying to do it himself. Oh. He does! He hit it! They will look at it to make sure that it beat the clock, but Jaden Bradley appears to have won it for Arizona.
Yes. Jaden Bradley, the Big 12 Player of the Year, the senior guard from Rochester, New York, was able to hit a game-winning jumper as time expired to send the Arizona Wildcats, the number 1 seed in this year's Big 12 tournament, to the championship game. What a moment that was. That was really thrilling. You talk about a player made for March. Jaden Bradley fits that profile to a T. And you saw the celebration after. It was such an iconic moment for the team and for that young man individually. What a game this was. Iowa State and Arizona, and let's talk about that game a little bit if we can. This might be the best game of the entire Big 12 tournament, if you ask me. All right, let me see if we can get my article ready to go. Here we go. Jaden Bradley had 15 points in the semifinal game. Arizona won 82-80, as you listened to moments ago. As time expired, what a game this was. Jaden Bradley finished with 15 points in this game in 31 minutes, including the game-winning jumper at the end. Heartbreaking way for Iowa State's tournament to come to an end. And Jaden Bradley was not alone. Toby Owaka had 10 points. Anthony DeRosso had 26. Ivan Kvartankov had 17 points. So this was a team effort for Tommy Lloyd and the Arizona Wildcats. What a year for Arizona, right? Remember, they had those 2 losses to Kansas and Texas Tech in February. Arizona has been locked in. They've been on a roll since then. Those 2 February losses. Coming into this game, Arizona has won 7 games in a row. After beating UCF in the quarterfinals on Thursday, Arizona was able to get their 8th consecutive win. Despite the fact that Arizona was tested and was basically taken to the limit with a 3-point marathon from Iowa State. And of course, that set up the moment that we just played for you earlier on. And Jaden Bradley was able to hit a 20-foot fadeaway deuce as time ran out to give Arizona a crazy 82-80 win in the Big 12 semifinal game against the Iowa State Cyclones, the number 5 seed. What a heck of a game this was. And of course, Arizona was then going to wait the winner of the game between Houston and Kansas. We'll talk about that game coming up next. Anthony DeRosso, what a night for him. Anthony DeRosso, remember that name, right? 177 career 3-pointers made entering this game. He hit 6 threes in this game alone. DeRosso did. He scored 26 points of 10 and 14 shooting, providing offense whenever Arizona needed him to get a basket. Remember, Iowa State controlled most of the first half of this game, so someone had to step up for Wildcat, and DeRosso certainly did that. His versatility, the fact that he's able to spot up from anywhere on the floor, create his shot, able to work well in transition, kept Arizona in the game. They needed somebody to step up and be a dog, and everybody else followed him. And then, of course, the Big 12 Player of the Year, Jaden Bradley, he shows up, lights are bright. Jaden Bradley, I'll take this dance. He took control like the Big 12 Player of the Year is supposed to do. He scored 15 points, dished out 7 assists with 0 turnovers against Iowa State's pressure defense. His last bucket erased the time frame that Iowa State was able to hit with 15 seconds prior to this. He scored 6 points. Jaden Bradley did in the final 3 minutes, repeatedly responding every time Iowa State was able to make a run. Arizona freshman Ivan Furchenkov was able to resume his great Big 12 tournament play with 17 points in the semifinal game, 9 in the second half, a pair of three that was able to stop any momentum that Iowa State was able to get. He played 32 minutes. He was able to pick up 3 steals, so he made the most of the minute that Tommy Lloyd put him on the floor for. And of course, when you have a good interior guy like Toby Awaka able to control things on the inside, he gets a double-double, his 8th double-double of the season. So a really awesome night for Awaka. And then Milan Milicovic was outstanding for Iowa State. He had 28 points. Don't blame Milicovic for Iowa State losing this one. And he hit 2 threes to keep Iowa State at least attacked, give them at least a chance to try to pull out win, which Iowa State ultimately was not able to do. And Arizona went 8 for 16 for free. They shot 55.2, which is superb. And Arizona, the best team in the Big 12 during the regular season, flexing their muscles here in the Big 12 tournament, as Arizona improved to 2-0 in Big 12 tournament play. And Arizona was able to advance to the championship game. And then that gets us set for the second semifinal game on Friday night. We saw Arizona win dramatic fashion in game number 1. Now, who will Arizona face in the Big 12 championship game? Will it be the number 2 seeded Houston Cougars or the number 3 seeded Kansas Jayhawks? And the answer to that question was the number 2 seeded Houston Cougars, which sets us up with a Big 12 men's basketball tournament rematch from last season in 2025 when Arizona and Houston played for the championship, and that's exactly what we got this year as well. Houston was able to win their semifinal game against Kansas by a final score of 69-47, led by freshman forward Christian Ack, who was able to score 17 points and grab a career-high 14 rebounds as Houston blew the doors off Kansas in this game. Kingston Flemings was able to put up 21 points. And how about this? You talk about impervious, impenetrable defense. The second seeded Cougar was able to hold Kansas, a potent offensive unit, when you got a freshman star in Darren Peterson. You have Bryson Tiller, you have Trey White, you have Flory Verduga, and Kansas did not put up a successful made field goal for 10 minutes during this basketball game. And then Houston was able to use their strong defense to get them a championship game berth. There, Peterson had 14 points to lead Kansas, who beaten Houston in their only regular season game. But the Jayhawks were a lot better at Allen Field than they were at T-Mobile Center, where they were 6 for 31 in the field. Kansas really struggled in the second half and shot 24.6%, which is not even 1 in every 4 field goals that are successfully made in their lowest scoring game of the season. But you got to give Houston a ton of credit. right? Over years, they're known for their defense, and Calvin Sampson really prides his team on playing well defensively. And the semifinal game against Canada certainly shows us that Cougars were able to control the game basically from the jump and were able to breeze to a dominant semifinal win. And Houston was able to eventually make their 19th tournament championship game in the history of their school, and their second as the member of the Big 12. Darren Peterson was the offensive anchor for Kansas. He had 12 points at the break. Second half, the wheels come off, right? And then Houston was able to win and easily defeat the Kansas Jayhawks to set us up for the Big 12 championship game. And now Saturday, March 14th, the Big 12 men's basketball tournament came to an end. We saw Arizona beat Houston 79-74 in the championship. Arizona was able to win their first ever Big 12 men's basketball tournament championship. So congratulations to Arizona on a outstanding performance in the tournament, winning all three of their games against UCF, Iowa State, and Houston in chronological order. And Arizona, I should say, not only did they clinch the regular season Big 12 title, but they clinched the tournament title as well. So how about that? A season sweep of Big 12 championship. How you go? And, of course, Jaden Bradley led the way for Arizona. Steady Jaden, as I like to call him. Arizona was able to build up a 15-point lead and held off a furious Houston rally. And if you watch the second half of this game, Houston made a very valiant comeback effort attempt that fell just short when it's all said and done. Jaden Bradley, who had 15 points in the semifinal game against Iowa State, he had 13 points in this game. 5 rebounds and 3 assists, and once again dictated Arizona's pace late as Houston tried to make a game of it. And unfortunately, Houston did not get their back-to-back Big 12 tournament titles like Houston was trying to get when the game started. Arizona freshman Koa Pete offered one of the best outings of his college career, posting 21 points and 6 rebounds in the championship game, including several tough finishes on the interior and big free throws to help Arizona keep the flow of the game going in their direction. Braden Burries, a fellow freshman for the Wildcats, he scored 21-2, drained 2 important threes, and then he calmly was able to seal the game at the line in the closing minutes. But Arizona, though, their composure, their comportment, their attitude really carried his team the whole night. They were not fazed at all by the Houston Cougars' fight and competitive spirit. Arizona knew this was going to be a dogfight in the championship game, and Arizona was prepared. And Arizona was able to win the conference tournament like Arizona set out to do when the Big 12 tournament started in Kansas City back on March the 10th. To nobody's surprise, Jaden Bradley was named the most outstanding player of the tournament, and Braden Berry joined him on the all-tournament team. And I want to say congratulations to everybody who was named on the Phillips 66 Big 12 all-tournament team. In addition to Braden Burries and Jaden Bradley, who we already mentioned, congratulations to JoJo Tugler of the Houston Cougars, AJ DeBansa of the BYU Cougars, and Milan Milchovic of the Iowa State Cyclone. Congratulations to all 5 of you guys. Outstanding job during the Big 12 tournament. And there's your Big 12 all-tournament team, 5 very outstanding young men, 5 deserving members. Wonderful, electrifying performance in this tournament, and now you get the recognition for it. All right, so that is the story there. All right, that is it for our Big 12 tournament discussion. What a tournament this was. Cannot wait for it in 2027. All right, good. My desk is starting to clear out now. Now let me find my bracket here, because that is the final part of the show. We're going to talk about the brackets, and then we're going to wrap it up, and then we will see you guys on the next episode. All right, let me find my bracket. It's somewhere on the floor. All right, here we go. All right, so of course, just like most people, I filled out a bracket. This is the second consecutive year that I was able to fill out a March Madness bracket. And my bracket was busted literally from the very first game I was played on Thursday afternoon in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm going to show you my bracket, and you'll also see it at the beginning or the end of this video. I will put a full picture like the one you're seeing now at the start or end of the video so you can see it for yourselves later. But let's quickly run through it, and then we'll have some notes from the Big 12 and the ACC regarding their team that made the field of 68. So let's start in the East region. I had Duke to beat Siena, which obviously happened. I had Ohio State beating TCU 8-9. That did not happen. TCU won, so my bracket automatically got busted. I had St. John to beat Northern Iowa. That happened. I had Kansas to defeat Cal Baptist 4-13. Obviously, that happened. I had South Florida defeating Louisville 11-6. I had Michigan State beating North Dakota State 3-14. And I had UCLA defeating UCF 7-10. That was in the East. And then I had UConn defeating Furman 2-15. That obviously happened. All right, let's move on to the South region. And of course, we should know that the Florida Gators were the defending national champions. Iowa, of course, sent them packing the second round. That was a major upset down in Tampa that nobody saw coming. So congratulations to Iowa on advancing and knocking Florida out. In the South region, I had Florida defeating Prairie View A&M 1-16. I had Clemson defeating Iowa in 8-9 first round matchup. I had Vanderbilt defeating McNeese 5-12. I had Nebraska defeating Troy in a 4-13. And Nebraska did win this game. Nebraska won their first ever NCAA tournament game this year. Congratulations to Fred Hoiberg and his team on that. I had North Carolina beating UCU in a 6-11 South first round game. That did not happen. UNC lost that game, and Hubert Davis is out. By the way, you learned today that Hubert Davis is out at North Carolina, who will not be coming back to that program after UNC's first round loss to VCU. So there's something to keep in mind. I had Illinois defeating Penn in the 3-14 first round game in the South region. I had Texas A&M defeat St. Mary's 10-7. I picked Houston to beat Idaho 2-15 in the South. Houston obviously did win that game. Now let's go over the other side of the bracket here. I had Arizona defeat Long Island 1-16. This is in the West region with the West Regional weekend in San Jose, California. I had Villanova beat Utah State 8-9. That did not happen. Villanova lost. I had High Point. I actually went with a number 12 seed to knock off a 5. And of course, High Point did win that game, of course. Congratulations to High Point, their first ever NCAA tournament win this year. So at least I have one lower seed defeat a higher seed, as we all saw. I had Arkansas to beat Hawaii 4-13 in the South. We had Texas to defeat BYU and went a lower seed to be a higher seed, 11-6. BYU did lose to Texas, as we all know, so I got that one right. Gonzaga over Kennesaw State, 3-14. I had Miami of Florida defeat Missouri in the 7-10 matchup in the first round in the South, and then I had Purdue defeat Queens of North Carolina in the 2-15 matchup, which obviously happened. And then one more region in the first round. Let's talk about the South region. I had Michigan defeating Howard. I had Georgia defeating St. Louis. I had Akron defeating Texas Tech. I had Alabama to defeat Hofstra. I had Miami of Ohio defeating Tennessee. That did not happen. Miami of Ohio lost in their first round game to the Volunteers, coached by Rick Barnes. I had Virginia beating Wright State in the 3-14. I had Santa Clara defeating Kentucky, the 10-7 matchup, and I had Iowa State over Tennessee State in the 2-15 matchup. And then, in the second round, all right, let's go region by region. In the East, I had Duke to defeat Ohio State. I picked St. John to beat Kansas. This is in the East region, second round. South Florida, Michigan State. Picked Michigan State to beat South Florida. Then I picked UCLA to defeat UConn in second round action in the East region. Now, as far as the South region is concerned, I had Florida defeating Clemson. I had McNeese in Nebraska. I picked Nebraska to beat McNeese. I picked UNC to beat Illinois. Boy, I was dead wrong on that. And then I picked Houston to defeat Texas A&M. This was also in the South region. As far as the West region is concerned, I had Arizona over Arkansas in the second round. I had Purdue over Texas in the second round. I had Michigan over Alabama. Oh, excuse me. Oh, man, I'm messing up here. All right, let's go back. I totally got way too far ahead of myself. So let's do this again. So, second round, West region. I picked Arizona to beat Villanova. High Point to defeat Arkansas. This is in the West region, second round. Texas over Gonzaga in the second round, the West, and Miami, Florida, and Purdue over Miami of Florida in the second round in the West. Now, for the Midwest is concerned, I had Michigan to defeat Georgia in the second round matchup. Alabama over Akron in the second round game in the Midwest region. Miami of Ohio to defeat Virginia. I had Miami of Ohio going to the Sweet 16. That didn't work out so well. And then I had Ohio State to defeat Santa Clara in the second round game in the Midwest region. And then once we get into the Sweet 16, I had Duke over Kansas in the East region, and I had Michigan State defeating UCLA in the Sweet 16 in the East region. For the South region goes in the Sweet 16, I had Florida defeating Nebraska. I had Houston beating North Carolina in the Sweet 16 in the South to set up a Florida versus Houston, Duke, Michigan State, the other Elite Eight in the top half of the bracket. Duke, Michigan State, East Elite Eight, South Elite Eight, Florida, Houston, which would have been a rematch of last year's national title game had that came to fruition. Now, as far as the Sweet 16 on the West region side, I had Arizona to beat Arkansas, and I had Purdue to beat Texas, and then I had Michigan to defeat Alabama in the Midwest Sweet 16 game, and I had Iowa State defeating Miami of Ohio in the Midwest Sweet 16 matchup. And then the Elite Eight, I had Duke over Michigan State to put Duke in the Final Four, Houston over Florida in the South in the Elite Eight to put Houston in the Final Four in Indianapolis. I had Arizona over Purdue to put Arizona in the Final Four, and I had Michigan over Iowa State in the Midwest Regional Final or the Elite Eight to put Michigan in the Final Four. Once you get to the Final Four, I had Duke over Houston, Arizona over Michigan to set up a Duke versus Arizona championship, and I picked Arizona to win the national championship, which would be the first time that a West Coast school would have won the Division I men's basketball championships as Arizona did back in 1997. Miles Simon was on that team. I think, you know what I'm saying? Like, Arizona has been a long time since a West Coast school won a national championship, and maybe Arizona can do it. This might be their time. I think Arizona is a really good team based on what I saw in the Big 12 tournament. I think Arizona is capable of going all the way this year. Let me know in the comments below if your bracket got busted, because mine certainly did. You can see if many of you guys' brackets got busted as well. All right, So notes about the NCAA tournament from the ACC and the Big 12. We start to wrap this up as we're going almost an hour now. The ACC has 8 teams in the NCAA tournament for just the third time in league history. 9 teams back in 2017 and 9 teams in 2018. Clemson, Duke, Louisville, Miami, North Carolina, NC State, SMU, and Virginia earned bids with its first NCAA berths in 2017. SMU is making its first tournament appearance as a member of the Atlantic Coast Conference. ACC men's basketball has won 15 national championships, including 3 of the last 10. Since 1985, nearly half of the ACC team that earned NCAA tournament bids have reached at least the Sweet 16. Over the last 4 seasons, the ACC is 38-19 in NCAA tournament play. Since 2015, the ACC leads all conferences in the Final Four appearances 10, and NCAA tournament wins 116, and is second in national championships. 6 different ACC programs have reached the men's Final Four since 2016. Duke, Miami, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, and Syracuse. That is the most of any schools during this time. As far as some notes about the Big 12 NCAA March Madness teams, Houston extended the longest streak in the country with 7 straight appearances in the Sweet 16, while Arizona is in the second weekend for their 3rd year in a row. Iowa State is back in the second weekend for the 3rd time in the past 5 seasons. The Big 12 at a conference record 18 gets selected to this year's field of 68, matching the number from 2 years ago. It marked the 4th straight time that the Big 12 has at least 7 teams qualifying to the Big Chance. All 16 have finished above 500 in Big 12 play this season. TCU, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Kansas, Houston, and Arizona were selected for the NCAA tournament to the surprise of no one. The team has 82 consecutive selections for teams with winning conference record dating back to 2010. Arizona, of course, won their first Big 12 conference Big 12 tournament championship, as we mentioned earlier. Jaden Bradley was named the most outstanding player for the Big 12 men's basketball tournament for 2026 after that iconic buzzer beater shot to beat Iowa State in the semifinal game. He was named the Big 12 Player of the Year. What a year Jaden Bradley had, leading his Arizona teams to so much success. And the Big 12 produced 3 of the top 7 seeds in the Big 12. In the Big Dance, Arizona 2, Houston 5, Iowa State 7. Well, no one in the league had more than 1. Arizona's number 1 seed marked the 6th consecutive year the Big 12 produced a top seed in the NCAA tournament. And, let me also mention this as well while we are together here on this episode. Congratulations to the 2026 T. Rowe Price ACC Men's Basketball Tournament first and second team members. Hopefully, I get the pronunciations right. We'll start with the first team. Cameron Boozer from Duke. Isaiah Evans, also from Duke. Ugena Awanso, hoping I'm pronouncing your name right, from Virginia. Sam Lewis, also from Virginia. Of course, Duke and Virginia, the 2 teams in the championship game this year. And Robert McQuaid, the 5th from FSU, the Seminoles. As far as second team, ACC tournament, all tournament team members, second team for 2026, Hayden Boozer, who is Cameron's brother from Duke. Lele Jones, Lajay Jones, I should say, from Florida State. Henry Visar from North Carolina. Malik Thomas from Virginia. And Felice, the writer, also from Virginia. And the Ever Case Award, as we mentioned earlier, the tournament MVP going to the great freshman star, Mr. Cameron Boozer. His father, Carlos Boozer, a Duke alum, of course. He was supporting his son throughout the season, and I know Carlos is a very proud dad that see his son win the ACC championship in 2026. Man, I'm looking at the runtime, and we are now over an hour long. But man, we certainly had a fun time, and that is it for you guys. That's all the content we have for you today. Thank you so much for being with us and sticking with us throughout the hour. Hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts about the ACC tournament, the Big 12 tournament, and our discussion about the brackets. And again, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, hit the notification bells. You'll be notified of all our newest content we post year-round on YouTube, whether we are talking about football, college basketball, baseball, the NBA. I'm going to be your guy to talk sports all day, every day, all year long. I appreciate you guys supporting our new college basketball series. Our baseball series will be starting very soon, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And I might post an additional video once the tournament is over, so if I will post something about that, I'll certainly let you guys know. But for now, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a great rest of your Tuesday evening / early Wednesday morning. Thank you for spending some time with us here. My name is Tamir Moore. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Good night and goodbye. What's up, guys? It's Tamir Moore. I appreciate you for watching today's video, and I look forward to seeing you next time for another YouTube video. In the meanwhile, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also check out my social media profiles and my YouTube profile, which I provided in this outro screen. So long, everybody, and have a great day.